everyone. This is Tim of the Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giant sports talk and entertainment. I loved it the other day. Someone left a message. Oh, I don't watch your show because it's not a video. And I promised the guy I was going to put up pretty pictures for him. And then he made the comment, I don't like it because you like an 80s radio host. Well, you know what? I'm more like a 90s radio host. I did grow up in the 80s. Spent a lot of time in the 90s. Even more time in the 2000s. I do laugh, though, and I'm going to digress for half a second. I don't know how kids from the 80s survived. I really don't. We used to do crap that you just like, what the hell were you thinking? I was thinking about last night. I jumped off a roof in a homemade hang glider, and we lived on top of this hill, and it was a really steep incline. And we built a go-kart for my friends. And we sat in there, and we tried to stop it going down the hill like 35, 40 miles an hour with a garbage bag parachute. How the hell did we survive? I have no clue. But let's talk about the New York Football Giants. Let's talk about the reaction and overreaction from everything that's going on from mandatory minicamp. Guys, relax. I mean, come on. The pendulum is swinging so fast back and forward from one extreme to the other. Tony at 1 minute looks like a rock star because he could throw a ball 50 yards effortlessly. That's awesome for a wide receiver. And if he's going to be used in the, Odell Beckham mode where Odell threw the ball a couple times, he threw the ball 4 times a year? And then it's Tony slipped. He was catching a ball and he slipped, then he slipped again, then he slipped the third time. Wow. Heartbreaking news. Dun, dun, dun. Who cares? It's mandatory minicamp. I mean, guys, relax. And then you hear things like Daniel Jones and Kenny G. They're building up rapport. In June, in helmet and shorts against no defense. Well, I shouldn't say that. They can do 7-on-7, 11-on-11 drills. Okay, relax. I know everyone wants to get excited, but they only have practice from 11:30 to 1:30. A cool thing today is they are going to make the coordinators available to the press. So you know that Jason Garrett's going to get drilled. He's probably going to be. You know what? He should call in sick that day or today. He should fake a migraine or something like that. Because he's going to get all the questions. He's going to get all the tough questions, and rightfully so. He should. But according to the New York Post, that venerable rag of the New York paper section, New York Post, that everyone doesn't know, is kind of New York Post and the New York Daily News. They're kind of basically like gossip rags in New York City. They have been for years. Used to have the Newsday and a couple other papers too that were the same way. But Steve Serby comes out and says the Giants have no excuse not to win the NFC East. Yeah, they should improve. They went from 4-12 to 6-10. They probably should have been 5-11, but that's okay. It is what it is, and we probably should have won the Tampa game. But whoops, I had to move the laptop. I'm still not in the Online Big Blue studios. We're still doing work in the house. But to say that they have no excuse not to win, there's 2 excuses: Dallas and Washington. People will be like, well, Dak, he wasn't playing well even when they were, when he was in the game. Yeah, that's true, but it's a different season. You could take everything from last season and just throw it out the window because it's a new season. Dallas tried to rebuild their defense a little bit. I think they're going to have one hellacious linebacking core, which could be an issue for a team that may have some line problems like the Giants do, because we don't know yet. And that's the thing. We don't know what's going on with the Giants line yet. We don't know. It's June. You could sit there all you want and say how wonderful the line's going to be, how awesome we're going to play. We don't know. Let's wait. Let's give these guys a chance. Let's let them at least get into training camp before we anoint them, the greatest line that ever played in the history of Giants. Let's just wait. And you also have the fact that Washington got better. I don't know if Fitzmagic is going to be Fitztragic. I've been saying that for a couple days now. They did pick up a guy in the second round that could potentially be their left tackle. They have a good defense. Most people forget because they talk about the Giants secondary, but the I believe the Washington team was the number 1 ranked secondary last year in regards to pass defense. So let's be excited about the season, but let's not put the pressure on saying there's no way they shouldn't win the NFC East. Should they be in contention for the East? You would hope they would be. But you also have to hope that Saquon Barkley comes back. You have to hope that Daniel Jones progresses in year 3. You have to hope the line finds and gels, finds its talent and gels. You have to hope Kyle Rudolph is coming back from the foot injury. You have to hope the same thing with Kenny G, that the hip pointer is fine. You got to hope that Evan Ingram can hold on to the ball. You got to hope that the Giants can find a defensive end. You have to hope we can find more linebackers because we don't want to be exposed with that issue. You have to hope Adoree Jackson is coming back. Coming back from the ACL. There's a lot of hopes on that team. There's a lot of hopes and wishes, which is fine in June. Oh, there we go. The music's just dropping right in today because you want to know why? We're being unprofessional. Like I said, we're just not in the studios today. But you have to hope. There's a lot of hopes on this team. Should the Giants be more competitive in 2021 than they were in 2020? I am going to say yes. They should 100% be. But to label them as it's a failure if they do not win the NFC East, they have no excuses, that's crazy. And I know it's to sell papers. I get that. I'm not obtuse. But to think that that's the case in June, can we at least get into the second preseason game before we start anointing them that this and give? I don't know. You know what? And I understand. I always call this the silly season because people are just trying to come up with articles and content and things such as that. I could come up with content all day long for Giants. I really can. The problem is you got people that don't want to hear certain content because of the fact that, like I said, I could do content about Giant history. I could do Giant content about Giant season going back to 76. I could do Giant content about players. I could just make up Giant content on the fly. And a lot of time, that's what I do. Because I like when people go, you're not professional because you don't have all the facts right. No, I usually have I would say I'm 95% right on the statistics. Sometimes I screw up on names. But that's fine. That's called life. If you're perfect, please stand up because I'd like to meet you. And then I'd like to take you over to the newspapers and say, hey, this is the most perfect man or woman alive. Because people make mistakes. And that's what I'm getting to with the Giants. You can't sit there and say that they are going to be, it is a failure basically if they do not win the NFC East because they made a couple of mistakes. Because mistakes happen in life and nobody's perfect. I'd be happy if the Giants go 10-7 and get into the playoffs as a wild card. I know you want to set your goals and expectations as lofty as possible, but let's be honest. This team is coming off 4-12 and 6-10 with a huge question mark at quarterback and running back. I don't think Barkley is going to see any snaps in preseason. I don't think he's going to get on the field maybe till mid to the end of the preseason. To the end of training camp, because that's just the way ACLs are. If he was out the first 3 weeks of the season, I would not be shocked as well. Am I fully confident what we have in the backfield behind him? No, not at all. To me, we were rolling the dice again. A lot of times, and Jerry Reese used to do that a lot. He used to roll the dice a lot. Like, we don't need to sign any linebackers. I love the year that we didn't need to sign any wide receivers. How'd that work out, Travis Rudolph, whenever he went down with injuries? But, it's you just got to wait and see. Let's just, like I said, let's just get into the season. Let these guys play. Have all the hope and dreams and unrealistic expectations you want to have. Or you could be the opposite. You could be gloom and doom and think that the world is going to fall off and Daniel Jones sucks. Everyone can have their opinion, but let's ground our opinions in reality. And again, this is Tim of the Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you can like, subscribe, if you're going to play the news, that'd be awesome.